During the last estimates in February, the department advised that you had not been asked to provide any advice about potential legislative amendments that would enable the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to be listed as a terrorist organisation. Since providing that answer, have you been asked to do any work on this?
Senator Sarah Chidgey, Deputy Secretary, National Security and Criminal Justice Group. No, we haven't provided advice on legislative amendments.
So, to the best of your knowledge, nothing further has been done by the government to progress a listing of the IRGC since the department formed with you in late January that we discussed here last time, that the IRGC can't be listed under current legislation.
We haven't provided advice on amendments for listing.
And, Ms Chidgey, is that lack of action the result of a direction from the Attorney-General's office or any other part of the government that the government doesn't wish to take steps to enable a listing of the IRGC, or is it just that there has been no proactive advice to commence that process?
We haven't had any direction, Senator.
No direction from the government of listing the IRGC?
No.
Minister, is the government considering, I'll put this to you because I think it's a policy question, is the government considering legislative amendments to enable a listing of the IRGC, or have you simply taken the department's advice as the reason to do nothing about recognising the IRGC as a terrorist group?
So, as you know, Senator Chandler, state actors cannot be listed as terrorist organisations. The former government that you were a member of accepted this and did not seek, for example, to list the Myanmar military regime following its serious human rights abuses and violence against the people of Myanmar. What we are doing is using the tools available to us to take meaningful action, including sanctioning 27 IRGC-linked individuals and 21 IRGC-linked entities. So that's what our focus has been on, using the available tools before us.
Sure. So you've been using the tools available, but there hasn't been any progress or direction to increase the tools that are available to you to enable you to list the IRGC as a terrorist organisation?
Well, as I said, state actors cannot be listed as terrorist organisations.
Does the government dispute that the IRGC engages in terrorist activities?
Senator, we're obviously, in terms of defining terrorist activities, we're working within the definitions of the criminal code, and state entities are not an organisation that can be considered to be undertaking those activities as a terrorist organisation.
So if we don't, I've had this conversation across a number of different committees now, and I think to any fair-minded person, the activities of the IRGC should constitute terrorist activities. So, Minister, why not just draft an amendment that would allow you to list the IRGC as a terrorist organisation, which is what it is?
Well, as I said, state actors cannot be listed as terrorist organisations. The former government accepted this and did not take any action in this regard, Senator Chandler, as well. But what we have done is use the tools available to take the meaningful action that I talked about, including sanctioning 27 IRGC-linked individuals and 21 IRGC-linked entities.
Sure. And, I mean, I do note, and the fact that you've made some attempts to sanction individuals within the IRGC is indicative of the fact that the situation in Iran has deteriorated significantly since September last year, as I'm sure many people would be aware. And I just had one final question, and this was in relation to a quon that I put to the department at the last estimates, and for the reference was LCC SBE 23109. But there was just one of my written questions on that quon that wasn't quite addressed in the response from the department. Has the Department of Foreign Affairs or the Department of Home Affairs expressed a view to the Attorney-General's Department at any time on whether it would be in Australia's interests for the IRGC to be listed as a terrorist organisation?
Senator, we're not aware of advice from either department indicating it's in the national interest to list. We'll sort of check our records, but that's to the best of our recollection.
Okay, that's disappointing, but thank you for that information, Ms Chidgey. That's all from me, Chair.
Thanks. Can I just ask a follow-up? Mr Muffet, you might be best placed sorry. Actually, you all know this content. What are some of the inadvertent... sorry, I'll put this another way. What are some of the possible impacts of listing a state entity? I know you can't under the Criminal Code, but obviously there's a policy reason why the Criminal Code is drafted in that way. What could some of the inadvertent outcomes be if you did have the capacity to list a state?
Chair, I
know it's sort of a hypothetical, but I think
yes,
I think it would actually assist.
I think in the way that
Senator
the Criminal Code's constructed at the moment, our view is it doesn't provide for the listing of state entities. So obviously it would require an amendment. There would be considerable complexity involved in that because of the nature of the activities covered and the potential to then inadvertently cover a range of government entities in various circumstances in situations that weren't at all contemplated.
And am I right? It would. It's sort of a first thing to do because the law doesn't read this way right now, but the way the laws are constructed, it could have the potential to criminalise things like office of, the way we provide aid or cooperation, the way we interact with some of those states.
Probably hard to sort of comment on
entities.
specific organisations, but obviously there are sort of range of state entities who engage in actions that damage property, do other things that could be seen as political other reasons. So just when you look at the definition of terrorist activities,
Sure. Okay.
If it hadn't been intended that covered state entities because of the just different considerations that would apply in that case.
Okay.